Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a vast forest, where every tree represents a choice or a path you could take. Some trees are tall and imposing, with branches that stretch to the sky, while others are gnarled and twisted, their trunks darkened by shadows. This forest is your life, and navigating through it requires more than just willpower. It's about designing the environment in a way that leads you to the right paths without draining your mental energy. Think of willpower as a flashlight, useful for brief moments of clarity, but not enough to illuminate your entire journey. This notion of willpower as a finite resource, often referred to as ego depletion, has been debated extensively. Some researchers, like Roy Baumeister, have argued that our self-control depletes over time, much like a battery. But others contest this, suggesting that what really matters is how we design our environment. Consider the story of Odysseus, a master of environmental design. When he wanted to resist the song of the Sirens, he didn't rely on willpower alone. He tied himself to the mast of his ship, creating a physical barrier to his temptation. In our daily lives, how often do we find ourselves succumbing to the siren calls of unnecessary purchases driven by the satisfaction treadmill of hedonic adaptation? We buy things not because we need them, but because of a fleeting promise of happiness, only to find ourselves back where we started, craving the next new thing. The cycle is relentless, like running on a treadmill that speeds up just as you think you're finding your pace. But there's a turn here that many miss. It's not just about resisting these urges through discipline. By changing our environment, perhaps by unsubscribing from marketing emails or setting a budget for impulse buys, we can step off the treadmill altogether. This is where the real power lies, not in the strength of our will, but in the wisdom of our design. Speaking of design, let's talk about the human mind and the dark triad of personality traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. These traits, when encountered in others, can be as deceptive and alluring as the forest paths we should best avoid. Yet they're not always easy to spot. In real-life interactions, they often manifest subtly, wrapped in charm or charisma. Have you ever found yourself inexplicably drawn to someone, only to later realize they were manipulating you? It can be unsettling, like realizing the path you chose leads deeper into the forest, not out of it. And then there's the unsettling realization that our intelligence doesn't always shield us from being manipulated. Enter the world of propaganda, which, when done skillfully, can sway even the most discerning minds. The elaboration likelihood model demonstrates how, when we aren't motivated to scrutinize messages, we rely on mental shortcuts. It's a sobering thought. Being rational and smart doesn't always protect us from persuasion. This brings us to another intriguing aspect of human nature: the halo effect. It's why we might assume someone is competent simply because they have a resonant voice or an attractive face. Our brains are wired to make snap judgments, often based on superficial cues. The way we perceive competence, influenced by such factors, can sometimes lead us astray, like confusing the brightness of a flashlight for the sun. But let's take a moment to reflect on forgiveness. Why is it so difficult to forgive someone who has wronged us? Neurologically speaking, holding on to grudges can be a form of self-preservation. The brain, reshaped by trauma, develops new neural pathways that reinforce feelings of distrust and hurt. Forgiveness, then, becomes not just an emotional release but a neurological reprogramming, a daunting task akin to forging a new path in the forest where no trail exists. Yet, as intricate as our brains are, they also harbor mechanisms like nostalgia, a psychological lifeline that links us to simpler times. It's not mere sentimentality, it's a survival mechanism. In moments of stress or uncertainty, our minds retreat to memories that offer comfort and continuity, much like finding a familiar clearing in a dense forest. And while nostalgia can be a balm, isolation can be a silent poison. Within just 72 hours of solitude, our brain chemistry starts to shift. Neurotransmitters that regulate mood and cognition begin to fluctuate, and what was once a friendly forest can start to feel like a labyrinth with no exit. This is why human connection is vital. It keeps our brains and our hearts from becoming lost. But even when we find connection, why do we sometimes sabotage ourselves just as success is within reach? This upper limit problem, combined with self-handicapping, acts as a psychological barrier, preventing us from stepping into the light of achievement. It's as if we fear what lies beyond the forest's edge, preferring the familiar darkness we know. The Dunning-Kruger effect, often misunderstood, tells us that the less we know, the more confident we might be. Yet, it's not a call to stop learning, but rather an invitation to embrace humility. Knowledge, like the forest, is vast and unexplored. The more we learn, the more we realize how much there is to discover. As we navigate our paths, we are sometimes surprised by how much we mirror the toxic behaviors of those we dislike. This shadow projection, an unconscious modeling of what we detest, can be a haunting realization. It's as if the darker parts of the forest hold a mirror up to our own souls. So as you stand at the edge of your forest, consider this: the paths you choose are yours to design. By understanding the forces that shape your decisions, from the environment you create to the psychological patterns you unravel, you can navigate with greater clarity and purpose. And as you step forward, I invite you to explore more deeply. Subscribe if you haven't, and check out some of the other videos on screen that dive into these fascinating topics. Each one is a part of the journey, a step deeper into understanding the forest that is our mind.